Hey friends, I'm Marilyn from tarotclarity.com and today's reading is going to be a reading is about something about my private life. I have lived in this home now. It's going on 3 years. It'll be 3 years in January that we actually moved in. And I'm starting to feel like the vibration that I'm probably going to get called for jury duty soon because, usually it's about like a 2-year cycle that they call you in. Now, because I lived at another location, they probably already sent one to my house to say, come in for jury duty. And hopefully the new, resident or the new owner of the property sent it back and said she doesn't live here anymore. And at some point soon, this location is going to figure, oh, this person, she needs to come in. So I figure that it's coming up. Now, I have always wanted to do jury duty my whole adult life. And I've been called for jury duty every 2 years since I've been old enough to be on jury duty. And I always do what I'm supposed to do. I show up, I sit there all day. And usually I have never, not once made it to voir dire. Not once have I ever made it to voir dire. Never. So I'll sit there all day, I'll watch everybody else get interviewed, and then they'll have their jurors, and then they'll say, okay, everybody can go home. That's always been the case. There have been times when, how it goes. The night before you call in and just find out whether or not they still want you. And if they still need you, then you show up the next day. But if whatever reasons they don't need you, then you're off the hook. However, as much as I really want to do jury duty, I have a fear that because I have a tarot business licensed with the state of New Jersey, I'm fearful that they'll take one look if I make it to voir dire, if I ever even make it to voir dire, and they'll question me. Before they even ask me questions, they'll probably know that I have a tarot business. Now, it's not like I'm just a little grandmother who reads tarot cards, and takes money on the side or whatever. I have a legit business, which is like seeable with the state of New Jersey. So it's not like I could go in there, slip under the radar as a tarot reader that none of the attorneys would realize I was a tarot reader. And, I did, they would all know. So I'm kind of doing a preemptive read. I'd like some information, and for this read I'm using the Fortuna tarot and the Obsidian Occult or Occult Obsidian Occult deck. I don't know why, I'm just drawn to this deck for this reading today, and I'd like to see how I would be taken seriously or not during a voir dire process. Now, the thing about it is that I know personally that I can be objective. I know I can, no matter what the circumstance is. I'll listen to everything. Prove to me that this or that didn't happen. That's all. And I'm a compassionate and caring person, and I certainly don't want an innocent person to be held accountable for something he or she didn't do, and I certainly don't want a victim to be on what's the word? I certainly don't want a victim to feel like a victim again because, they weren't properly considered during the jury trial. I certainly don't want a guilty person to be free. So I want to listen to everything, But would I automatically be disregarded? Now, I don't think for 1 minute that any of the attorneys would think forever that she has powers. I don't think they would ever feel that way about me. If, in fact, the only thing they probably would feel about me is that I was a quack, because that's how we're seen. We're not seen as the upper tiers, upper tier, the upper echelon of society. We're kind of marginalized, which is why it took me all these years before I even did a little YouTube channel and kept on the down low for a long time before I ever came out in that way. because everybody who ever got their cards read by me, it was all by word of mouth. And now it's, now we have the internet, and now I'm retired from my other profession. And so now I'm out there. At any rate, so that's what the read's going to be on. I'm going to flip the flip the camera, touch base with the universe, ask the information, now that I think that I'm going to probably be called for jury duty, probably within the next 6 months, I think I definitely will be. But I want to see how, what's the likelihood of me being chosen during voir dire regarding being a tarot reader. Alrighty. And the deck was a little bit on the large size, so I'm hoping I can get all the cards in comfortably. I know I have my candles have been encroaching my space because I have a lot of intents for a lot of people. And okay. Oh, it's kind of hard today. Okay, the Empress. I'm guessing that's me. Maybe not. Could be, could be attorneys, right? Could be law, so it doesn't have to be me. Here we have the Star, which is hopeful. It's also reminiscent of the Judgment card, in the sense that for me, I see Judgment as a continuum of a lack of chaos. But it's hopeful. So then we have 3 swords, which is interesting because we have the Empress, who is also a 3. So the suit of swords can be referencing law, right? Can be referencing attorneys. Let's see more of the cards. Queen of Candles. I would be batons. Front and center of the core 9 is a 9. 9 of Pentacles in this case. I call them coins. So I think of them as coins. Okay, so 9 of Coins, front and center. And then we have the Prince of Candles. So we have fire and land on this row. And we have individuals, right? These are court cards, right? So we have individuals who flank a practical card, a card of a practical nature. Then we have strength, protecting, maybe protecting the sanctity of the courtroom. The moon, maybe I'm seen as an unknown entity. Excuse me, I have to take a sip of tea. Sorry about the coughing. I'll tell you, I have not been right since COVID. I had COVID twice in quick succession. Within a year, I've had it twice. And I swear I've never been the same. Okay, so we have 8, 8 of Cups. So let me go off into the Quint card realm and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so the Quint card for the top row is the Magician. For the second, it's the Hermit. And for the third, it's the Hanged. And for the Quint card for the entire spread, but does by design lay across the center row, is the Seeker. Now, in this deck, they call it the Seeker, not the Fool, because I guess they buy into the whole, the Fool's journey, and, this is their path or whatever, and, to navigate the cards. I don't, subscribe to the Fool's Journey aspect of tarot, but because this deck identifies this as the Seeker, that would be me. So I would see it as my pursuit regarding this issue, and it falls across this line. So we do see a few cards that could suggest legal or other people who would be decision makers. Then we have the Empress, which would be could be the judge. It could be female attorneys, right? So, or it could be mother justice, right? I mean, it is the Empress. It's not the Justice card, but it could be representing the entity of justice or the people in positions of power regarding that. We have, Queen. We have, which could suggest, one of the attorneys. Could be a fiery person, somebody who's very creative, somebody who's might be open-minded to having a tarot reader on the thing, if they figured, I don't know, I don't know, but it could be one of the women. It would be interesting to see if I'm called in. And if it ever happens, I'll let you know, of course, if there's like a feminine judge, a female judge, or some of the attorneys, if they were women. Then we have another card, which could be an individual, could be the person who's being judged, right? It could be a person who is what? Oh my goodness, is this oh my goodness, it looks like the card has damaged. Ooh. And I dare not use a marker to fix that. At any rate, it could be the person. So there could be like a person I don't see this as a law card, but if I'm talking about being, going through the voir dire process, and if I would hold up, I definitely could see this as somebody in the position of authority over me, making my decision. This could be the defense team, representing the person. So this could be representing the person. This could be representing the prosecution. So it could be prosecution. Well, they would be on the same team because they're the same suit. So it would be the defense team. So the snag or the decision making would be based on what the defense team, I think, sees as a practical nature. Now, front and center of the core 9, we have a 9, right? And now 9 is coming to completion. And it's completion of practical matters. So I think the defense team, in particular, my bias is that none of them will want me on there. None of them will want me. None of them would want me, knowing that I was a professional tarot reader. Right? Excuse me for drinking my tea. But I think they're going to take a real practical stand on this. And I think it's going to be a hard no. They may have a feeling that me, being the seeker, might think I have an inflated sense of what I can see or what I know. And so I think it's possible that they would have a feeling that I had an inflated sense of self. I wouldn't normally see that regarding the Hermit, but I'm doing the read in the context of the question, and I'm looking at the card, and there's definitely an inflation, right, of enlightenment, right? So, and I think they think that I think that I'm woo-woo, and that I think they wouldn't. I think it's the defense. If I don't get picked, it's because the defense sends me on my merry way, because they see me or fear that I have an inflated sense of what I can see, right? Now, what's here? We have Fortitude card, we have the Moon card, and we have 8 Cups. So these two cards, at least, are emotional. An inflation of emotion. Maybe it will be, some kind of, maybe it will be a criminal trial, right? Or a criminal case. And because I see, right, punishment, right? So I see punishment. So, and then this would probably, include people like myself, right? Who have woo-woo powers, or I'm sorry about that. Hold on, my husband's phone. So we have the Fortitude card to keep precious. So I think they want to keep precious a sense of, well, they have every right to want to keep it sacred. They don't want to make a mockery. Okay, that's what I think. I think they don't want to make a mockery of the case because maybe it's a serious case, one that requires punishment, like a criminal case. And I think they don't, they don't want woo-woo stuff. I think they don't want woo-woo stuff. Now, this would be maybe woo-woo, their fear of woo-woo stuff for a criminal case, and then this being fortitude. I think they want to safeguard. I think they would want to I think they'd put barriers up for sure. Well, so my bias is being played out, but I think that's what's here, right? I think that's what's here. Now for the top, we have the Empress, position of power, could be legal authority. Probably not myself. I think I'm here. I'm the one who's being judged or decided upon. Then we have the Star card, which does suggest hope, navigating through a situation. And we have another 3 over here. So maybe the prosecution would be okay. I think the prosecution would be okay with it. I think the prosecution would be fine with it. But if I get let go, it's because of the defense team. Now here, the Quint card being the magician is, it could be seen as deception. But with this deck, I don't think it's so much of a deception as it is manifestation, which is not how I typically understand the card. I typically understand the magician as like the bachelier, con person, the person who's, deceptive and tricky, especially since we have the moon card here, right? So there's some, I automatically see these two and I think, oh, deception, trickery. But maybe they might think that my woo-wooism, the prosecution, might think that my woo-woo, I don't know where I came up with woo-woo. I think woo-woo is like a generic term that I must have picked up on the internet or something. But I think they might think that could be beneficial for them. Could be beneficial. Now, naturally, as a juror, there would never be any discussion about any of us individually except during voir dire. Nobody would know anything about any of us, And I certainly wouldn't discuss anything like that with any of the jurors, at all, ever. But maybe they think that somebody like me, who, if they know anything about tarot, and let's face it, tarot is pretty mainstream. There are psychiatrists and psychologists who reference tarot cards in their practice to help people organize their thoughts and stuff like that. So maybe the prosecution will think she's probably a highly analytical person. If she can make connections between things, which I can, maybe it would be to their benefit to have somebody like me, not because I'm woo-woo, but because I have an analytical mind, right? But the defense team wouldn't like me because they'll have a stereotypical thought that I'm somebody who thinks I'm I know the truth, and I won't listen to argument, right? I won't listen to facts. They probably have an assumption that I'll just skip to, trying to know the truth without benefit of listening to any of those things. So my job would be to make them aware of the fact that I can indeed be objective, and I can indeed listen to facts, and I have a highly critical, analytical mind where I can critically think and put stuff together and come up with the truth. But that's, I don't think they'd give me the opportunity to prove that. I think it's more, so it would be again, nay for the defense team, yay for the prosecution. How would it turn out? I think it would be for a criminal case. I think I'll be sent on my merry way because there may be enough doubt to think that I might not listen to facts and that I might have a secret agenda of my own and that it's too emotional a case to be, to allow a tarot reader. But you know what? If they wouldn't have somebody like myself, they should just say tarot readers need not come in, right? They should just say that so that you don't have to spend like 10 hours of your day waiting around in a room to see whether or not you're called in or not, They should just say, hey, look, certain people don't need to show up. So if you're a tarot reader, you don't need to show up because we don't need to hear from the likes of you. But see, they would never say that, but they would still waste my time. What do you think, guys? Now, I know some of you who are tarot readers probably have gone through voir dire. But did you have a business, Oops, oh, shucks, look what I did. Did you have a known business, where they could easily look you up and know, oh, she's a tarot reader? I mean, I suspect a lot of you or some of you definitely served jury duty as a tarot reader, but but during voir dire, there was no way for them to know that you were a tarot reader. You see what I'm saying? For me, there's no escaping the fact that I'm a tarot reader. So, okay, let me do another read. I'm going to do another read because during voir dire, and I'm just going to do it. I'm shuffling right here. Oh, I screwed up. Oh, I have to go through these cards because I'll have to go, when I shuffle, I'll have to fix them because I got them all screwed up. But during voir dire, if I'm questioned, how do I present myself as somebody who's articulate enough to explain? I could be objective. What would be my best argument? Alrighty, so going on the assumption that the problem will be with the defense team and that the prosecution would be okay with it. What would be if I was given one sentence to convince the defense team that I could be an impartial, aside from saying I can be impartial, I could definitely put, I have an analytical mind. I make connections. Oh, that's my argument. I have an analytical mind and I can quickly put things together and understand facts. But at any rate, I think I answered the question. But I said I was going to do the read, so we'll do the read. I think if we see a lot of cards from the Suit of Swords, and that would be an indicator that would bear out what I just said. So they have the King of Elixirs. So the king, who could the king be? Is a person in a position of authority who is in control of his emotions or is level-headed regarding the emotions. And then we have 5 swords, which can be, an upset. And then we have the star again. Didn't the star appear? The star appeared for the prosecution. But my argument here, so maybe I would have to address maybe there's a male figure that I have to kind of appeal to. I have to appeal to him to navigate my way through the uneasiness, right, of the 5 swords. And then another, so maybe, wow, the defense team might be male. Front and center of the core 9, we have the Princess of Elixirs. There was a princess who was who I identified as the defendant, but was that, I don't think it was of Elixir. Front and center of the core 9, not me. And then the Queen of Elixirs. So again, a lot of people. So I think I'd have to quickly assess all these emotional people. A highly emotional situation. Well, the bottom row is an emotional situation because it was crime, right? Looked like it was crime and punishment. The quint card was that somebody was being punished, like a criminal, right? So I'd have to appeal to their emotions. So there'll be multiple people, and I'd have to appeal to their emotions, that I can navigate my way through this. And there may be 2 male energies in particular. Because, water and fire don't mix so good. And so here we have water and fire touching on 2 sides, right? So we have 9 batons, or 9 of fire. Look at all these people. Gosh. The Princess of... Oh, maybe it was the Princess of Candles that was in the other one. Like over here, right? Or over here. Oh, dang. So it's hard to tell with this particular deck because the people aren't represented as people, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 9 cards are people. So I'd have to appeal to a broad arrangement of people. I'd have to appeal to their emotions. I'd have to appeal to their impulsive or community or to their collective energy. Yep. And the people, I'd have to appeal to fire and water nature. So I'd have to calm their emotions, and then I'd also have to show them that I'm enthusiastic for the process. Now, because there's so many court cards, it'd be kind of easy. So obviously this would be the Hermit. This would be the Seeker or the Fool card. And up here we'd have 5 and 17. So we'd have the Fool card, the Seeker. So we'd have Seeker, Seeker. Whoa. Oh, and 9. Seeker, Seeker, and Hermit. Okay, so let me pull those. So here you see a repetition in the quint cards. So we have two Seeker cards, and then we have 2 Hermit cards. So overall, I had to use a second Fortuna deck, and I have this beautiful copy of the Emerald Enema, which was given to me by Richard. Richard, if by any chance you're watching, hello. I miss you. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got here. So I think the biggest obstacle is, remember when I mentioned the woo-woo head? They think that I have more vision or clarity than I do, because that would be maybe a prejudice on their part to imagine that I have an inflated sense of what I know, okay? So that would be my biggest obstacle, and it may ultimately be the obstacle that keeps me, right? Because these other 2 cards, the Seeker cards, which are me, obviously represent me as the Seeker, but also, if we look at it as the Fool, it would be a reckless choice. So ultimately, I think it would be considered a reckless choice, by the powers that be. Now, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time because I'm not the one on trial, and they're going to have to make quick decisions, right? Like quick. But the assessment, I think, would be just what I explained, that she's too much of a risk. And, if she's a tarot reader, she's, got a sense of herself that's like not what we want. She thinks she can see the future. Now, the question was, how can I convince them in, as concisely as possible that I can think analytically and critically, put facts together to come up with my thing. Well, with my opinion, or what I can come up with a decision, a rational decision. But I don't think, because I have to work too hard against a fiery nature, I'd have to, you know what I mean? This is fire. These are people who are on fire, literally, right? They're on fire. So, and they're trying to put out the water, which we have. Do we have water here? We have water. Let's see what the water is. I can't remember. I can't see. We have water. I think we have water up here too, right? So we have water. We have fire. So we have fire trying to put out the emotional, So I'd have to appeal to their emotions, that I can, work within the confines, because this is a suit of, working with the people, right? Being collective. So I have to convince them that I can work towards, what am I trying to say? I can appeal to them emotionally, that I can be a person who can work together with the team and not put myself out there as being able to see or have information they don't have. And I think that's my best opportunity. I have to convince them that I can navigate my way through it. But, and I think I also have to appeal to the gentlemen. I think I have to pick out who the men are and assess them quickly and appeal to them. But I think ultimately I would not be chosen for all the reasons that were spelled out here. So I wish they would just say on their summons, tarot readers need not apply. If you're a tarot reader, just stay home. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be brave, and please do be kind.